Hey, what's happening out there in drum world? Hey, it's Bruce here, vintage drum restoration garage, and got to have the vintage in there. Hey, we're on episode 3 or part 3 of this LEEDY green sparkle 8x14 Broadway parallel. Beautiful drum, it's coming out pretty nice, and in this part we're going to work on the throw off, which is going to take up all the time in this. It's a little bit tricky, and you can move ahead if you'd like to. A lot of guys might not understand this particular throw off. It's one of the more sort of complex ones, and if you've never taken one apart, you might want to stick around and watch that. So hey, let's get started. Okay, now this is a 1938 catalog. We were talking about this in the previous episode. You see this throw off that's on it, and it's nothing like the throw off that came off that drum. This is the throw off that came off that drum, the box style, which came the next year. That's why I was saying in this previous video on this drum that this is the throw off that actually goes on this drum. As you see in the next catalog 44, which is 1939, there's that throw off, the box throw off. Oops, there it is. There's that throw off, and here's that end. This came on this particular drum, and like I was saying, I'm pretty darn sure that this throw off was put on this drum at a later date, because, and I can't understand why they would do that, but they did, and it was probably done many years ago when the new throw off came about, and the guy was saying, "Oh, I'm having trouble with mine. Can you put a new one on?" Maybe they ordered this throw off. I don't know. Anyway, that's what's going on here. So, and this is the 1939 catalog. That's what it looks like. So, to clear that up, that's what I'm talking about there. So, I've been digging around in my parts, and I've managed to round up the correct era throw off for it. Okay, it's not in great shape, but nothing is on this drum. And they're extremely rare parts to find. I used to buy up drums in pieces. Sometimes they'd be just in pieces, and just to get these parts, because I was a parallel nut, and I just always loved these throw-offs. I don't know why. They're kind of finicky and fiddly, and if you bump them the wrong way, they're going to cause you a lot of grief, but I just always loved them. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap this throw off. We're not going to use on this drum. We're going to use this one. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Basically, we're just changing everything around on this drum. Oops. Throw off. You got the lugs now. The rods we're going to keep. Probably the handles we'll keep. I've got several handles here. And the wires don't work on this particular one, but I know how to make wires that will work on them, and I'm gonna have to look through my parts. I may have a set of original wires, but that's not important. So that's where we are on that. I just wanted to clear that up, and now that we're assembling this drum, that's at the point we're at right now. I want to start assembling this throw off on this drum. So I'm going to start cleaning these parts and assembling the drum. First thing we do is we put these jaws in, our hinges. I clean them up as much as I can on the wheel. And this is not clean. This is the next one. This will go in this side here. You got to remember to put the screws in the right way. You can't turn them this way. They have to go in this way. If you look at the screw pattern, it goes up like this. So that goes in like this. And these hinges or jaws, I like to call them, will work on both editions of throw-offs, so I won't have to change the jaws. So I got the one side in there. I'm going to put the other one in now. I'll tell you what, guys, you're going to mess with all these old drums. You better have yourself a stack of old machine screws, because you're going to need them. And nothing looks worse on an old drum than going down to the hardware store and using new screws. They look terrible. And it just doesn't match. So I've had to find screws for this drum, and I've found the proper error ones. I've found that going to yard sales, or seems like yard sales in, years been gone by, you find these old men, they collect them in like fruit jars full of screws. You don't want to mess with wood screws, but you want machine screws. These kind of things. Machine screws. And you'd be surprised how they come in handy, and especially when they look like this. They're old and nasty looking. You can buff them up and they look perfect for the drum. Alright, so we've got these hinges or jaws, what do you want to call them, on here. They're working. And I was able to, I've moved the throw-off back to original position, which is down in these two screws holes. These are the ones they added. I don't know why, but they did. Maybe because that throw-off, that box throw-off, maybe doesn't fit these holes. I'm not sure. I've never tried to exchange one on a parallel, but it could very well be. So I've put some what I call dead screws in these holes. I couldn't put any in these two unless I drill holes in the plates in the inside. I don't really need to do that. I don't care that much. So where we're at now is the tricky part. These throw-offs. Okay, so years ago I was messing with a lot of parallel throw-offs, and what's notoriously always missing is these knobs. So me and a friend got together and reproduced these knobs out of brass and had them plated. I left some brass, I left some plated in nickel, and some plated in chrome. So I have a lot of these. Oh, if anyone ever needs one, $25 a piece if you want them. And I've got them for both throw-offs. One has the small screw, like this one here, and the other one has a bigger, larger pattern, larger bolt on it, which was, I think, later. This is the early one, but this is all I have, and it works the same, so I'm going to be putting on these drum. So basically what has to happen with these things is everything has to line up perfectly. You'll see that these will we'll screw in there nicely. That's good. Yeah, great. So the threads work good, but when you put these knobs here on all together, that's when things start binding up and you have to adjust them. So in other words, this one goes like this on here, and then this has to slide into here like this. Then you start the screwing process, and I can feel like already there's no way, it's just binding. And if you'll notice, this is bent, or this L here is bent, or something is off notoriously, and you just have to start bending things back in shape, messing with the threads. And this thread pattern here is a 832. And the problem with these is you can't get a die up these. Well, let's see, is this an, here's the 832. Yeah, 832. But you can only get the die up so far. Look at that. Then it starts hitting. So I think they make smaller diameter dies. I don't have any. But these threads appear to be okay, so I'm not going to really worry about that, because this did screw in here just fine. I see what the problem here is that this part is bent up. So what I'll do is I'll just start bending it whatever way I think it needs to go. This has to slide around here in this slot real good. It's a very finicky throw off. A lot of guys just don't like these things. But I'm always up for the challenge, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here's what we have here. This part goes in here beautifully. That's what we want. That's great. Now, when we add this part, it goes in there nicely. We want that. By the way, this part here is exactly the same as a Ludwig super sensitive part from the early 60s. So if you're ever missing this for a parallel, it's the exact same part. This is a chrome part. I'll be using it because I don't have a nickel one. So just to clear that up. All right, now, so what we do is we put this one on here. This has to spin on there. Okay, beautiful. That spins on there. But when we slide this on here and try to get it to thread, oh, problems, huh? Yeah, see, it's binding. And what I'm seeing here is, I think what I'm seeing here is, if you look at this, this is straight here, and this one is bent out a little bit. So I'm going to, and possibly this part needs to be bent up a little bit too. So I'm just going to start bending this thing around and getting it to work better. Look at what I'm noticing here. See this in this arch here, this cutaway, it's almost hitting the screw right here. So it looks like this part needs to come up a little bit, because otherwise, how would you get it just to fit? It's binding in there. So what I was going to do is I'm just going to try to bend it a little bit. Right, look at that now. It just about turns itself, and that's what you want. Look at that. I'm not putting any pressure on my fingers either. Now that thing is working really nice. And to get these snares to tension properly, this thing has to be moving easily. Otherwise, you're just binding and getting all pissed off. And so that's, you gotta adjust things. So there's that. Okay, we're ready to clean one of these finicky screws that we can't afford to lose. What I've done is I've put the screw in one of the nuts that retains it, or the locking nut. That way I can hold on to it and clean it inside here. So I'm going to clean it. Now we're all cleaned up in there. And I'm going to install this, half of this, well, part of this throw off. This goes on like this, and this screw goes in here. And you know what's really important? Put some oil on it. You know what's even more important? Don't drop it. Okay, I put some oil on him. I'm going to put her in here. And I'm going to try to find the thread. I think I got it. I don't like the screwdriver, number one. So I'm going to run the screw up all the way, right? And then I'm going to put the locking nut on it. Let me clean up another one right now. What I like to do when I'm putting these screws in, you'll see it's well oiled. I put it all the way in, then I back it out all the way to where the threads don't show on the other side. Then I have to, yes, so I back this screw all the way out here. First I screw it in. You can see it moving, coming in. Now I'm going to back it out to where it's flat on the other side. Then I'm going to grab the nut that goes on the locking nut, and I'm going to somehow hold it. This is what I usually do. I fiddle around until I can hold it. Then you just start screwing and you find out where those threads are. You got to kind of move it around. Yeah, now it's starting to go into the threads. But the problem here is that you have to have this nut close to this part. It can't be away from it because you can't turn it once you get so far. You'll see what I mean if you ever do one of these. So to lock it, you got to go this way, and you almost have to have a special wrench. It's really a pain. So I just lock it like this. And as you can see, they're nice and flat in there. And now everything works as it should. So now we're ready for the handle to go on this side. We're going to put the other side on. I'm going to go have dinner now, and I'll see you in the morning. Oh, just one more thing. When you're dealing with these old drums, it's like one step forward, three back. It always winds up this way. You must have to have a love for these things just to get through it. So it takes probably 3 to 4 times longer to restore an old drum, especially with the nickel hardware, because the buffing takes a long time, longer than a chrome-plated modern drum. It's a pretty simple procedure. You take it apart, you clean the chrome, you put it back together. It's not really a big deal. These old drums, they just take forever. So be patient, and it'll all work out just fine. Look at how beautiful that works. I'm just barely turning it. And that brings the snare wires in and out. Look at that. I could just about turn it like that. Isn't that nice? So we'll get back to it. Okay, now we're going to assemble this throw-off arm on this drum. I've always thought that the front of the drum is where the badge is, and so if you've got the badge here, you'd have the throw-off arm at 9 o'clock. The badge is at 12. The butt is at 3. And this is 6 o'clock. So I would call this 9 o'clock is where I would put the throw-off lever arm. That's just the way I do it. I have seen in catalogs where it was done the other way. Here's the arm. I've cleaned it. It's a cast, I believe it's a cast brass arm. And this is the steel part, which always flakes. So I'm going to put this on here. You know, wait a minute. I'm going to put these washers on too, the way they had them, just to cover up some of this. Well, we had a big indentation on here, so let me clean those washers. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got these washers, and now I'm going to clean them up. As you can see, these are pretty rusted up, but I'll clean them up pretty good. And my wife is British, and she would call these manky. That would be, these are in manky condition. I kind of like that term. So I'm sure you Brits out there, if you're watching, you know that term real well. I kind of like that one, manky. So I'm going to clean them up real quick, just a second. Okay, so I've got those cleaned up. We'll put this manky one on the inside and the cleaner one on the outside. So we'll, here's the arm. I'm going to put this in here, like that. Then I'm going to put the manky one, as it were, on the inside with the lock washer and the brass nut. Okay, so that's on there, and I'm going to tighten it up. Hey, I wanted to say hello to all the new subscribers out there. Thanks for coming along with on the ride, and seems like we're getting a lot of European people, so appreciate it. And if you have any questions, let me know. Or if you want to tell me I'm doing it all wrong, that's cool too. Okay, so now we're at the point of the screw that goes on there. I'm just going to give it a quick clean. I want to say that I take the time to, well, I mean, not everybody, but I do take the time to sometimes go on, like say I get a new subscriber, then I'll go on and check out, you know, what kind of videos they have up, and sometimes I'm pretty amazed at some of the stuff they watch. And so I do check things out. Oh, you're not able to see this. Let me adjust this here. I do check out what people are checking out too. I just dropped the screw here. So this is kind of fiddly here. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. This is a little bit fiddly to get in here. There's you got to find the threads in there. So, let's see. Okay, so what was happening is you recall that this hole here was elongated, and when I tightened it up, it didn't line up with the hole here to put this adjustment screw in here, so I had to loosen it up. Oh, I know what's going on. This arm is not going to work on this throw off. This one is designed for that box throw off. So let me find the one and clean it up and start over here. Okay, so what I've done here is I did cut a little bit off of this, the length of this, but I also tapped it, drilled and tapped it to bring this handle to where it, well, to where it has a more of a, it was sitting at this angle before, and that's not correct. So now we've got it basically where it should be. And the throw-off is working really nice now, really sweet. It's got a nice snap to it. You hear that? So now it's working good. Everything's working really great on the drum. And I think that it's coming out really nice. Oh, also what you may notice is I have taken a little brush and like sprayed it down with my solution lightly and cleaned out all of these cracks. So you don't see those cracks so pronounced. In this panel you might see them a little more because these are a lot deeper. But as you can see, you're not seeing them in general. Pretty much got them to where they're more invisible. And they were pretty pronounced with that compound in there. So I'm pretty happy with that. So that's where we are on this drum at this point. And I think we're going to, the next episode, which, yeah, sorry, it's going to take another episode of this. Part 4 will deal with cleaning the hoops, getting all the rods cleaned up, and installing the heads and making some snares for this thing and getting them up and running. So stick around. It's a fun process. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much.